What are my 5 biggest questions about the Baltimore Ravens going into the 2019 NFL season? Make sure to stay tuned and watch the whole entire video to find out. What's up everybody, it's JT Sports and back to you guys with another video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about my 5 biggest questions that I have for the Baltimore Ravens going into the 2019 NFL season. Now before I begin, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I upload NFL videos and NFL content daily. I also have a weekly call-in show every Sunday afternoon at 6 p.m. Eastern Time when I talk about things going around in the NFL, and people feel free to call in, ask questions, or just talk about any topic that they want to involving the NFL. So make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're a fan of things like that. And also make sure to follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is JTSports_. The link to my Instagram page will be down in the description down below. And also make sure to follow me on Twitter as well. It's the same thing as my Instagram username, which is JTSports_. And the link to my Twitter is down in the description down below as well. So, my 5 biggest questions about the Baltimore Ravens going into the 2019 NFL season. And most of them are just on the offensive side of the ball. I don't really have any big questions about the defense. But my first question is, Lamar Jackson, how good is he going to be in 2019? How much more developed is he going to be going into this season? And can he get the Baltimore Ravens back to the playoffs again in 2019? Now, we already know about the success that Lamar Jackson had, only losing one game as a starter, passed for 1,201 passing yards, had 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, completed 58.2% of his passes, had 695 rushing yards, 5 rushing touchdowns, and averaged 4.7 yards per carry. So, Lamar Jackson, is that success going to carry over to the 2019 NFL season? Is he going to improve? Is he going to stay the same? Or is he going to have a sophomore slump? That's what I'm wondering. And I think I'm going to go with the better half. I think Lamar Jackson, he improves. I think he leads the Baltimore Ravens to the playoffs again. But it's just a big question because this is just what I think. This is just my opinion. I think Lamar Jackson is going to have a great season, but it's going to be I can assume all I want to, but we're going to find out by the time when the NFL regular season rolls around. That's going to be the thing I'm going to be looking forward to seeing the most. How much does Lamar Jackson improve in 2019 versus in 2018? By what I mean improve, we already know what he can do running the ball, but what can he do passing the ball through the air? Now, last season, he actually showed some signs of having the potential to be a pretty good passer, and a lot of people don't really talk about that. They just talk about, oh, he completed 58.2% of his passes, despite having a higher completion percentage than Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, and Josh Allen, all 3 quarterbacks who were rookies last season, along with Lamar Jackson, who were drafted ahead of Lamar Jackson. But somehow people are talking about Lamar Jackson's accuracy. But I think Lamar Jackson showed the flashes and showed the potential last season to actually have the potential to be a solid passer. Not an elite passer, but a good enough passer to win games at the NFL level. So that's going to be something that I'm going to be looking forward to watching out for and looking out for during the NFL regular season. My second question is the wide receiving core for the Baltimore Ravens. Who's going to be that number 1 guy? Who's going to be Lamar Jackson's go-to guy? They drafted Hollywood Brown and the first round of this year's NFL draft. They got Chris Moore, they got Willie Snead, they got Jordan Lastly, a guy who I'm really high on. They got Miles Boykin, just to name a few of the wide receivers who they have on the roster. So which one of those guys is actually going to end up becoming Lamar Jackson's go-to guy? The guy that Lamar Jackson looks to go to on third down. A wide receiver who Lamar Jackson is actually going to trust. Now, Willie Snead, he has a lot more experience than the other guys that I named since he started for the Baltimore Ravens last season. But a lot of people think Marquise Hollywood Brown could be Lamar Jackson's go-to guy simply for the fact that him and Marquise Brown both came from Broward County. If you guys don't know what Broward County is, it's a city in Florida, and they both grew up in the same county. If for all my hip hop fans out there, if you're a fan of Kodak Black, he's a notable person who came from Broward County as well and grew up with Lamar Jackson. So that could be another thing. Him and Jordan Lastly, that I think that could be a pretty good connection as well, because him and Jordan Lastly had a pretty good thing going on in training camp and mini camp last offseason for the Baltimore Ravens. So if Jordan Lastly is actually able to get the starting spot, it's going to be pretty interesting to see if Jordan Lastly ends up becoming that #1 wide receiver or that go-to target for Lamar Jackson. And also, Hollywood Brown could be the go-to target for Lamar Jackson, or Willie Snead, or Miles Boykin. Nobody really knows. It's going to be interesting to finding out how it unfolds. That's why it's the second question that I have on this list. And it's going to be interesting because I think every quarterback has a wide receiver who they go to, who they trust the most, and it's going to be interesting to figure out who's going to be that wide receiver for Lamar Jackson that Lamar Jackson is going to go to and trust the most. Question number 3, my third question that I have, is the halfback position. How are they going to split the carries throughout all these talented running backs? The Baltimore Ravens probably have one of the most stacked halfback positions in the NFL. They got Mark Ingram, who they signed in free agency. They got Gus Edwards. They got Kenneth Dixon. Then they drafted the speedster out of Oklahoma State, Justice Hill. So they have 4 talented running backs. How are they going to find out ways to get all 4 of these guys involved? Now, most likely, one of these guys is going to be the odd man out. I mean, it could be Gus Edwards. It could be Kenneth Dixon. But all of these guys, Kenneth Dixon and Gus Edwards, had some kind of production last season that was pretty solid. So it's going to be interesting to figure out how the Baltimore Ravens manage all these halfbacks that they have on the roster, who's going to be the odd man out, and who's going to be ended up getting the majority of the carries, which we already know is most likely going to be Mark Ingram. But Gus Edwards and Kenneth Dixon, they're going to be competing to see who's going to be that second workhorse back behind Mark Ingram. And then Justice Hill, he's going to be the change of pace halfback that gives the Baltimore Ravens more speed at that halfback position. So it's going to be interesting. If I had to make a prediction, I'm going to go with Mark Ingram. I don't really know. Gus Edwards and Kenneth Dixon, most people would go with Gus Edwards, but I think a lot of people might be sleeping on Kenneth Dixon as well. So I don't really know. It could be, these halfbacks could be the workhorse back behind Mark Ingram. And then we already know about Justice Hill. He's going to be the change of pace back for the Baltimore Ravens. So that's going to be another thing that I'm going to be interested in seeing. And we probably won't even know how these carries and who's going to get the second most carries behind Mark Ingram is going to fold. That's something that normally gets worked out as we progress through the regular season. That's something that they're not going to be able to figure out in the preseason. Mostly when halfback positions are this stacked, it normally goes into the regular season until week 8. That's when we start seeing guys start breaking away and getting more carries. And that's how we're going to end up seeing this halfback thing that they got going on resolved, because they have a lot of talented halfbacks on the roster. Question number 4, my last question involving the offense, is the offensive play calling with new head coach Greg Roman. Now, last season, the guy who they had calling the plays was a little bit too predictable. Once we got into the playoffs and they played the LA Chargers, he didn't do anything to switch it up in the LA Chargers. They were prepared for it. I mean, you knew the LA Chargers were prepared for it, because the first play of the game, these guys came out like this. Everybody ready. Everybody looking like linebackers out there, ready to stop this heavy rushing attack with Lamar Jackson. So it's going to be interesting to see the play calling that they're going to have. I heard some things about them wanting to implement some triple option concepts into their offense. They want Lamar Jackson to balance out his running and his passing. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see this Baltimore Ravens offense going into 2019. I'm going to be interested to see him, because I don't know if they're going to be run heavy. I thought it was going to be a more run-heavy offense this season, but apparently they're not going to be as reliant on the rushing attack, which I find that hard to believe since that's their bread and butter, and they have all these talented halfbacks, and the halfback group is better than the receiving group as of right now. So I think they're going to end up running the ball a lot more than what they think, because what they want to do is they want to be a more balanced team going into 2019. I understand that, but the thing is, you got all these talented halfbacks. You're going to have to utilize them. So I'm going to be interested in seeing this offensive play calling. Is it going to be more run heavy like how it was last season? Or are they really going to stay with a word and actually have a more balanced offense this season? That's what I'm going to be interested in seeing. But me personally, I think they're going to run the ball a lot more than what they did last season, and they're just going to pass when they need to. I think they're going to be a little bit similar to the 2017 Jacksonville Jaguars, because the Jacksonville Jaguars led the league in rushing attempts and rushing yards, and I think it's going to be similar than that department. But I just think the formations are going to be a little bit more advanced, and they're not going to be so predictable like how they were in that playoff game against the LA Chargers last season. So that's a big question, is the offensive play call. And the last question that I have is the defense. Now, I don't think that the defense is going to be terrible. The only reason I have a question about the defense is that defense going to be as good as it was last season? Is it going to come out? Is it going to be the #1 defense in the NFL again? Is it going to be a top 5 defense? Is it going to have a top 10 defense? Are we going to see some injuries that make the defense not be as good as it was last season? They also lost a couple of key guys. They lost CJ Mosley. They lost Eric Weddle. And they ended up bringing in Earl Thomas, which is an upgrade from Eric Weddle. They got Marlon Humphrey. They still got Tony Jefferson. You got Earl Thomas, who you added in free agency. They got Patrick Owasu, a.k.a. Peanut, who I like him a lot. He's going to be that guy who's supposed to be replacing CJ Mosley. So my question is, how good is the defense going to be? Is it still going to be that top-notch, one of the best defenses in the NFL? Is it going to take a little bit of a step back? Is it going to take a big step back? Because you never know. Things throughout every NFL season, something changes. You know, some teams aren't as good as what they were last season. Some teams are better than what they were last season. So the NFL is constantly changing. So that's going to be the only question I have for the defense side of the ball for the Baltimore Ravens, is how good are they going to be? Are they going to be the exact same? Are they going to be the #1 defense in the NFL? Are they going to be a top 5 defense? Are they going to be top 10? Or are they going to take a little bit of a step back? So that's the only question I have about on the defense side of the ball. Overall, I think they're going to be pretty solid. But that's just one of the big questions I have, because I got to have questions for both sides of the ball. So for the defense side of the ball, it's just going to be, how good is the defense going to be? So that's it for this video. Let me know what you guys think about it down in the comment section down below. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more NFL videos and content. And thanks for watching.